Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Tyler from the Unemployed Architects. This was a very busy weekend for me. This last weekend I had Thursday night at Clark Bar in Champaign, Friday night at Dr. McKay's here in town in Bloomington, and then Saturday I had two shows. I had one in the morning up in Kankakee at the Farmers Market, and then a second one in Pontiac at PK Uncorked. So this was a pretty fun weekend for how busy it was. I was kind of dreading it a little bit. I didn't know how I was really going to make it through necessarily, but, as most things do, it went fine. You build it up in your head like it's an impossible challenge. One of the best things about doing that many shows in a row and like having a full work week and stuff is that Saturday night when you're done with that last show. So that was, you get this nice feeling of like relief and accomplishment. Nothing went too wrong, and you made it through. You made all the money you could, and, it was fun along the way. But, going into that, you have a little bit of anxiety built into you when a week like that's coming. You're like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if my car breaks down? You get these thoughts going. What if my equipment breaks? What if, but all of that, is kind of a waste of time, but it's hard to fight that, I think, out of your mind. But anyway, so getting all the shows accomplished and everything going semi-smoothly was definitely a relief, and made me feel like I was worth something, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so Thursday night, Champaign, Clark Bar. I played, we set up outside because it was like a really nice night out, and I was like really looking forward to jamming outside. And I wasn't even expecting to be outside until we like pulled up, and I forgot that they had like a nice little beer garden. So we get everything set up. We were running a little late. It was just me and Dave that night. Lo was kind of sick the first two shows. But anyway, so I get there, and, it's nice out. They have the beer garden. We're a little late, but, it's just I'm just playing acoustic, and Dave's doing the congas, so a little bit less on the setup side. So, we get set up, like, just in the nick of time to start. I strum the first chord, and, of course, it starts raining. So that was definitely not ideal, but the people that were there were super nice. They, all helped us carry everything in, and kept asking what we needed from them. And I don't really like asking people to do stuff like that, but they were offering, and it was raining, so I let them help, and that definitely made things go a lot faster. I was kind of hoping it would stop raining, so I didn't want to put everything in right away, but it didn't end up and stop raining. So and then we were supposed to start at 6, play 6 to 9, and by the time we moved everything in, and it just was, 6:15 probably. So what I did, instead of spending another half hour setting stuff up inside, is I just plugged directly into, I plugged one mic directly into a speaker, just one speaker, and it sounded okay. It was kind of hard to get into any sort of groove because you couldn't really hear either thing, and it was just kind of weird. It was like if I leaned up, you could hear my guitar more. If I kind of crouched down a little, you could hear my vocals more. So it's kind of hard to get in any sort of comfortable groove with that. So I ended up, and during our first set break, I plugged in my pedal board, or my vocal pedal, into one channel of the speaker, and then the next channel of the speaker I did my guitar, so I separated it. Still direct in, no mixer, because, I was trying to kind of hurry. And that definitely made things kind of a lot smoother as far as just the way it sounded. But I was going on no monitor, which was not something I'm very used to anymore, but it still sounded okay, I think. And then the next set break, I ended up and added my little Roland amp on, kind of pointed it back at us so I could hear a little bit better. And I mean, it sounded pretty good for what it was. I don't think it was mind-blowing. The people there were super receptive. And once we got that second speaker plugged in, it really, I think, started sounding a lot better. And, I feel like Dave could have a little bit more fun because he could actually hear the music a little bit better. So it was, it was interesting. It wasn't the most ideal situation, but we kind of overcame and, played through and did our time. It was one of the biggest tip nights, I think, of the weekend was at Clark Bar from 6 to 9. And so, we must have been doing something right. They do a nice thing, too. I mean, before they even did this, we had, like, a good portion of tips in our jar. But they, like, passed around a little tip bucket, and then they emptied that into our tip jar, which was something they did last time, which is cool because I feel like all venues should really do that because it really, helps the musician out. But I don't know. It was a surprising crowd for early on a Thursday. I feel there's a guy down there named Brian that he always is promoting us real hard, and it was just he brought a bunch of people out, and there were some other people out that had come to see us, and it was just a good night, really. And for some reason Champaign seems to be a good market for us, and we're down 3 times this next weekend in Champaign, so looking forward to that a little bit. So then the next night was Dr. McKay's. I went super early and set up as usual. I had been having some I decided to use my powered Yamahas, my little 10-inch powered Yamahas for this show as my mains, and I've been having some trouble with those lately. So when I went in early, I tested them and they worked fine. And then when we got back later, for some reason they weren't working right, and I just couldn't get them. I don't know. I'm just probably gonna not use those as much, even though they're my favorite speakers. But they always sound the best. But I don't know what's going on with them because the thing that was happening wasn't really making any sense to me. But anyway, so we got them working and sounding okay. I felt like it was a definite on night for me, with just me and Dave. I was really into on Thursday and Friday with some of the covers we were doing. I was really into working on my impressions. So like the Tom Petty, the Tom Pedley as we call it. I was really working on my Tom Petty voice, and then I've been doing Pearl Jam pretty good lately too, Eddie Vedder's voice. But sometimes it's kind of fun to, when you're playing some of these songs, on long sets, 3 and 4 hour sets, to just, if it's something you've done a million times, you can make it more interesting by doing something like that and maybe have a little more fun with it. But anyway, it was a really big crowd at first, and they seemed to be really into it. But then what inevitably happens there, since we start at 7, is like people are finishing dinner, and then like 8 and 9, it's kind of slow and dead, and then it gets kind of busy around 10. But overall, I got a lot of compliments throughout the night, and there was, a couple crowds of people. But a few separate people came up to me after we played and were saying really nice things and asking where we were playing next in Bloomington. So that was definitely awesome, and got me probably good and warmed up for the show the next day. But I was a little worried because I didn't want to lose my voice. But the next day, we had the Kankakee and the PK and Cork show in Pontiac. So that's a show at 9:30, the Kankakee one is, and we have to be there at 8:30 to set up. So, I had to leave around 7. So get up around 6:30, try to be out the door by 7. And I stayed after we played at McKay's. I probably stayed up till maybe 3 or 3:30, getting all the stuff ready for the next day because I knew that I was not going to be coming home between shows. So, I had to pack a bag of clothes and get pretty much just have everything ready in case I wanted to take a shower or something in between. So that left me with about 3 hours of actual sleep before I had to get up and, get ready to go to Kankakee and play that show. I 2.5 step down for Kankakee because I've been doing that more lately, and that seems to, in the morning, kind of compensate for the, morning singing. So And Laura Lynn was there. She wasn't used to the half step down, but she got kind of used to it as it went on. But it was using the JBL when there's two people. When I just have me and a guitar, it's like perfect. But when Laura Lynn's there, she uses the other channel you can use for vocal, and then there's only one more channel that's just a 1/4 inch in, or 3/4 or whatever. And I can never really get a good guitar tone on that channel. Like, no matter how much I want to, it just like is impossible to get a good tone, even if I mix it on the onboard or on the preamp on my guitar and do some stuff with my pedals. There's really just no good guitar sound I can get unless I plug it in the other, vocal or channel you can use for vocals. So I wasn't real happy with that, but I mean, I had fun. It was super, super busy. It was like maybe one of the busiest ones we've ever played, and it was pretty nice out. And I didn't do foot drums, so I wasn't like dying of heat or anything. So I mean, it was fun. I don't feel like I sounded amazing, but I still had fun with it, and that's a win for me, because if I'm not sounding good, it's usually pretty hard for me to have a good time. And it wasn't that I sounded bad. It was just like I was a little spotty. But I guess my expectation is a lot lower in the morning than it is for like a night show. But and then after, I had the guy that one of the people that puts on the event come up and was like, I really wish that the other bands that play here would come out and see you guys, because you guys always sound so good. And that was just like a huge compliment, especially coming from a place of me thinking it didn't sound great. I knew it sounded okay, but I just to have him come up and say that after, and be like, you guys always do such a good job, and the vocals always sound really good, and I put a lot of effort and time into that. So it's nice when it gets noticed, I guess. I think his biggest thing was, we don't blow anybody out of the water, and we always have we try to get the right amount of effects on the vocals so that they aren't so harsh. Because he was saying, even when there's really good singers, sometimes they just don't sound very good. So, and he said, because we play in this little pavilion thing, or a gazebo thing, and he was like, it was really cool. You could walk pretty much anywhere in the whole farmer's market and hear us perfectly. So, that made me feel good, and kind of, I was already feeling okay about the show, and that kind of brought it to the next level. So then, we had to rush back. We didn't have to rush, but we packed our stuff up and went back to Pontiac, and then we had some time to kill, actually. So we went out to lunch with my mom and my brother and my niece, and, ate a little bit, and then kind of went back to the house. Laura Lynn took a nap. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to. So I went up a little bit early to the show, a little bit earlier than she did, because I was using the Yamahas for this, and I just knew that there was going to be issues, and of course there was. I couldn't get the vocals to come out for some reason. The guitar would come out, but the vocals wouldn't come out. Changed out some cables, and it seemed to maybe make it work. I don't know. PK's is always a little weird sound-wise, because you really have to watch. They really, really don't want you to be very loud. So I didn't do the foot drums this time, just played acoustic, and I had one main set up, one of the Yamahas, and then I had a main that I put in the very back of the room, kind of pointed at us, and that was just a little alto. And then I just used the little vocal monitors as our main monitor. There was a little bit of a learning curve that night with tuning half step down in the morning. I feel like my muscle memory was kind of not clicking quite as good as it normally would, so I had to pay extra close attention. And this was just a show that I was kind of nervous about it anyway. I was just thinking the whole week that nobody was going to show up, because the last time I played there, pretty much nobody did. But I mean, not a ton of people showed up, but I definitely brought a few people. Definitely more than last time, and there were a couple people there that I would say almost everyone there was there specifically to see us. So we brought like a lot of business to their bar. So I felt pretty good about that, and it sounded good. And I played a bunch of weird songs because a couple of my buddies from high school that really like Dave Matthews were there. So I busted out some old Dave songs. I played a lot of originals, and then at the end they just kept requesting originals. So that was really cool. And I felt like it sounded good. And that last like 30 minutes, of a 4-show long week is usually like the best because, it's kind of like that feeling of, I was saying earlier, where, when you complete it, it feels really good, which it does. But then when you are in that last 30 minutes, you're pretty much there. So all the anxieties and worries you had are like kind of let go, and you can really like get into it because you're not saving your voice for anything, and you're not, I don't know, there's just a lot less to worry about. So that was, a lot of fun, and there was a okay amount of people there to see us, and they were really enjoying it, really into it, really attentive. So that was really cool. And then after, a buddy of mine came, Ryan Wolf from Pontiac, and he's been having a bunch of vocal issues. He hasn't been able to sing right for like 3 months. So I ended up and got him to play for everybody that was still there. So it was like a little after hours jam, and that was why we were like tearing stuff down. So I just kind of let him play my guitar and be our after hours music, and he had a lot of fun. It sounded really good, and the people that were there stuck around to hear him play. So it was a good time all around. And then we ended up and got home, I would say, around maybe 10:45 p.m., and ended up and stayed up way too late that night, too, because a buddy of mine just moved back from Colorado, and it was his birthday, which unfortunately I had to miss most of the birthday festivities, but I still got to hang out with them a little bit at the end. So I had a really good time. Probably stayed up way too late again, and then slept most of my Sunday away, and then back at work. So that was pretty much it. So that was a long weekend of shows. I think overall it was 90% positive, and had a lot of fun. This next week we're gonna be, like I said earlier, we're gonna be in Champaign. Got 3 shows in a row in Champaign. I don't know how that happened, but we're doing full band too Friday, which is been pretty uncommon for us lately, but they gave us a really high quote, so I was able to convince everybody to come and play. So it's going to be all 5 pieces, and then we actually got an Airbnb for the night, so we're staying the night in Champaign, and then I got a show. I got that Brian guy that I mentioned earlier kind of hooked us up with a buddy of his that it's his wife's surprise birthday party that they wanted us to play at, so and that'll just be me, Dave, and Lo for that one. And then we're playing at Poor Brothers down there after, which is really fun. The last time we played there, it was really fun. So looking forward to that. And this one will be outside, hopefully. All our shows are supposed to be outside, so we'll see how kind of that goes with the rain. I think the forecast is looking not great, but, we can always go inside if it's bad outside. So but yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun, I think, and what I will be talking about next week. So anyone who took the time to listen, as always, I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your week.